So a little backstory, I guess, to go into that. Yes, there was obviously a shift in operations. At that point in time, you might have some folks from another branch of service disagree, but for the most part, the Navy, even in peacetime operations, their operational tempo didn't really change. We were on 6-month deployments. We'd do the workups and stuff on that. I mean, there was 1 year before 9/11 that I actually spent 11 months out of the year out to sea, and that was without the deployment. That was all the workups, the in and outs that we were doing 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, or out. So the one thing that had kind of shifted with the Navy, from my understanding, talking to folks that had been in for a while, was the guaranteed 6-month deployment. It used to be you'd go out on a deployment, you're supposed to be gone for 6 months, and then 9 or 10 months later, you'd finally come home. Because it wouldn't necessarily be something bad would happen, it was just some folks know that senior officers, a captain's not going to make admiral unless he does a deployment. And if he's willing to volunteer to keep the ship out longer to make himself look good, then he's going to volunteer to keep the ship out longer. Because I remember reading in the headlines one time growing up that the Eisenhower had pulled back in from a 9-month deployment. So that was the one thing that had kind of shifted pre-9/11, guaranteed 6 months deployment. So when you left, you were pretty much guaranteed 6 months later you were going to come home. Did all that, and then when 9/11 happened, we didn't know when we were going to come home. And that's the big thing that shifted back again. You still have all the workup cycles. You got to still get the ship ready. You still go through all the shakedowns. You got to qualify the pilots. You got to qualify the ship to know that it's going to be able to recover an aircraft when it's out in the middle of the ocean and there's no land field around for 5,000 miles. So that's still all a requirement for the Navy. And then you go out and you don't know necessarily when you're going to come home. I don't know what a deployment cycle is if they're planning to be gone for 6, 7, 8, or 9 months now and then come home with the hopes of not getting extended because of what's going on. We ended up on 9/11 getting extended an extra 2 months. We were supposed to be back we didn't get back until October, if I remember correctly. Jackie, my wife, remembers it vividly. She goes, about the time we got home, she was about at her wit's end because she had a brand new baby. Danny was born at that point in time. My mom and my older sisters had gone out to see her. It was just a not knowing. And when we got back, she goes, I was about at my wit's end. She was making do. So that was the big thing with the change in the operational commitment, was no more guaranteed 9-month or 6-month deployments. You didn't know when you were going to come home.